Excellent. We are now live. Oh. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, one and all, as they say. Welcome to a very wet, icy, another cold day up in north of England. I'll tell you now, we've got ice on the floor, the mud's frozen. We are truly now in the depths of winter. It's oh boy, where to start? Well, I think as always, good morning to you there from Hamburg. Good morning. I hope you're enjoying yourself in Germany. Once again, we've come out of lockdown over here in the UK, and we've walked essentially. Good morning to you from straight on the ice there. Having breakfast, excellent. I'll be having mine soon when I get back. But yes, we are in the midst of another lockdown. Well, not a lockdown, the end of the lockdown. Will there be a deal? We'll get into that soon. We'll get into that soon. Anyway, good morning to the people joining us. But as always, I feel like I have to talk about the fun that's going on in America. Good morning to the Henk from the Netherlands there. Good morning. Because honestly, after next year, and when Trump is gone, there's going to be essentially all doom and gloom. So I hope you'll forgive me, because don't worry, we will be talking about Brexit. Have no fear on that. But yeah, what are interesting times in America. The sauerkraut, good morning from Bremerhaven. Yeah, so what's going on in America? Well, what we are witnessing in America is currently let's just say the Republican Trump voters are revolting against the GOP in Georgia. Because this isn't something that they've decided themselves. This is an event entirely of the Republicans' own making. So this is not a surprise. Even before Trump, the Republicans were really starting to move towards this really, really bizarre and, quite frankly, insane conspiracy theorist mindset that they've taken, and that led them to Trump. And now the party has decided that now Trump has gone, they're going to try and get rid of him. Even Fox News has decided that they will try and essentially just disown Trump. We've seen just this coming week that, they will, if Trump's, quote, lawyers and news team will, no longer start spewing ridiculous, insane conspiracy theorists. Even Tucker Carlson, the most bootlickingest, anchor of the Republicans on Fox News, got into trouble with these Trump supporters because he dared ask for evidence, something that even the most Billy Basic journalist would ask for. But it's even a surprise that the man would actually ask for evidence. And now we come into what is the interesting point, because in Georgia there is now going to be a runoff. And essentially there are 2 seats in the Senate up for grabs. If the Democrats win those races, there's a very good chance that they will, given what I'm about to tell you, then not only do they win the House, even though they lost seats in it, they will barely just win the Senate, but that's all they need. And they will have the White House. So what's going on in Georgia? Well, turns out all these Trump supporters who were baying for essentially that the count had been stolen and that they've been robbed of their rightful president have now started to say that they're going to abandon the Republicans, that they're not going to vote for the Republicans, because no one in the Republican Party, if you've noticed, since the election, has said anything about Trump, that he should go. They've pretty much remained silent during all of this. And now, this is coming back to bite them hard. I mean hard. Because this will ruin, hopefully, fingers crossed, ruin their electoral chances in Georgia, which will essentially mean that a large chunk of their voter base, who are Trump supporters, will not vote for the GOP. Which is, quite frankly, quite amazing. Because they're so committed to Trump. Not only that, we also have Trump, the Attorney General of New York, going after Trump for his tax evasion at last. Something we've been waiting for. Oh, good morning there to you. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see Trump, shall we say, in jail. That would be, I think, true poetic justice after all this. But of course, there are still rumours that Trump is going to try and get out of this by essentially going to, as soon as he's left the White House. How's the coffee? I wish I had one with me, to be honest, today. I'm going to have to get some gloves, I think. Because, my fingers are cold. But yeah, this is where I look to solace, to be honest. Because this brings us round to Brexit, and thank you all. I know you come all here for the news about Brexit, and I appreciate that. But I've got to thank you for allowing me some brief indulgences to talk about another country that is, shall we say, experiencing now the reawakening. The adults have now re-entered the room. The wardens have retaken the asylum from the inmates. And I can only look on from our asylum here in the UK, with somewhat envy, because while our country continues in what seems to be this denial of basic reality, basic facts, basic economic knowledge, another country was at least with us, and we could sort of go, well, at least we're not the only ones. Oh, good morning from France. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, John. And we could say that at least we weren't the only ones in this mess. But now, with Biden in charge, we're on our own. We are truly on our own in some crazy insanity. The only place I could truly look for, if I really wanted to, I'm not going to, but if I really wanted some quiet solace, during this time, to look, at least things aren't as bad here, I could maybe look to North Korea and report on their insane accordion skills while Kim Jong-un continues to essentially do mad and crazy things and makes mad, insane, crazy claims. Oh, I know. This is one of the things I'm looking forward to, going travelling again. I am looking forward to seeing if I can get to Europe again when it's all when it's safe to do so again. Yes, and that's something we are going to have to worry about, Crowban, because there may be some sort of Trump resurgence in 2024, but that's at least some time off. So at the moment, we have to worry about the here and now, because we are 33 days now from Brexit. No matter what the Brexiteers will say, that, oh, Brexit happened at the beginning of this year in January. No, it really didn't. Brexit really, truly happens at the end of this year. This is when we will leave officially the customs union and the single market. And this is when the chaos that we've talked about on this channel for the past 4.5 years, maybe a bit more at this point, because we did cover some stuff during the referendum. And this is where we've got to. Yes, it was. You've beaten me to the punch, Jane T. Because, for those of you who may not know, we signed some years ago, when the Channel Tunnel officially opened, a very incredible joint European project, by the way. And we essentially gave French customs officials the right to essentially operate on British soil. So when you go through the customs on the British side and you're passing into France, you very often won't encounter British border agents. You'll encounter French customs agents. And when you come back through the French side to the British side, very often you'll encounter British customs agents. And because of that, recently, the French, I can't remember how you pronounce their agency's name, but essentially the French Border Operating Office decided they were going to test and stress test their border operations, which resulted in quite a significant queue all the way up the motorway. In fact, where did it go? Was it up the M20? Was it M20 now? But yes, for but a brief single day, we got a glimpse of just what we've got to experience every single day starting from the 1st of January. And that queue will be there from the 1st. Oh, good morning there to you, Ghent. Oh, no, from Ghent from Belgium. Oh, no, sorry. Brian from Ghent from Belgium. Good morning to you. So we have, and this shouldn't shock you. This really shouldn't shock you, because we've talked about this on this channel before, just about how bad it's really at these ports, and just how bad these queues are going to be, because this is going to have a massive knock-on effect. Lorries just standing there waiting at the border. And it's not just going to be on our side. It's going to be on the French side as well. However, the French have a somewhat significant advantage, should we? Because they've actually spent all this time actually preparing. So when this border test actually happened, the British were just waving things through. But there is infrastructure on the French side that was built a number of years ago because the French prepared for this to continue. And this just goes to show what the Brexiteers were really thinking. That somehow, the European Union was going to just acquiesce to all our demands and say, you know what, let's just leave the British in the customs union and the single market. We'll let them do their thing. You know, no biggie. That's what the Brexiteers seemed to think was going to happen. And still, to this day, think it was going to happen. If you saw Rishi Sunak on, I think it was it the Andrew Marr show? I can't remember what show he was on this week, but he was on this week at some point. And he was asked, how are the Brexit negotiations going? And without even missing a single beat, he turned around and said to the presenter that our negotiators were currently negotiating and doing an absolute sterling job. Of course, this was a complete lie, because for those of you that have been paying attention, first of all, David Frost and Michel Barnier did not meet last week because a member of the European negotiating committee had COVID. So hence the negotiations last week were called off. However, some did take place, but they were very low level. So essentially nothing was done really. Not only that, we then have, I think, the single best thing that came out this week. This, regardless of whatever happened this week, you know, the border test on this side was funny and a glimpse of things to come. But this just goes to show you how wrong the Brexiteers have got it. Just how pig-headed and ridiculous and stubborn they've been all this time. Michel Barnier got up and sent a very significant message that he and his team would not be coming to London this week for the simple fact that the British refuse to compromise on the current sticking areas of the level playing field, the fishing policy, and of course, on standards. So essentially, Michel Barnier said, if you're serious about a deal, you need to compromise. If not, then that means you want a no-deal Brexit, and that means we as the European Union will be, okay, fine, have a no-deal Brexit. Which will essentially means the withdrawal talks will break down. Essentially, what will start to happen is there will then become a free trade agreement. However, what will happen is, tiny dog. However, what will happen is they will essentially just slide across the exact same document that they've been telling us to sign all along. So, you know, this is the bizarre thing. 4 years of this. 4 years of this absolute nonsense. And yet, no matter how much time advances, no matter how much we move on, nothing changes, especially on the British side. And it's really difficult to say why, but you know, this is the Kool-Aid that the Brexiteers have been, you know, drinking for years, of somehow the European Union is going to just acquiesce to our requests. And I know there will be some Brexiteer who will come and say in the chat, shouldn't the EU compromise? Well, no. The EU has actually already, if you look at the negotiations, has actually made significant compromises to the deal already. But they will not break the integrity of the single market for the British to essentially just run free. And one of the big sticking points, because this was all it would take on one of these things, is what the standards and regulations we intend to do. And this goes all the way back to there we go. And this goes all the way back to the beginning of all this, of the Brexiteers at the referendum saying that, we can finally make our own laws, finally get our own, you know, get rid of these stifling Brussels regulations. And yet, they've never actually said what these regulations are that they want to get rid of. And once again, this comes back to the point of, you know, we can only really talk about Brexit up until about the 1st of January, because there's just no policy to talk about beyond that. You know, Brexit was a policyless choice, was birthed from a very, very narrow-minded view of essentially British nationalism, and to essentially glorify the country and demands of a country that has not existed really since the reign of Queen Victoria. And we've mentioned this many, many times before about this, about how the Brexiteers long to reunite the empire under one glorious trade union. And some of you are going to bring up, what about Canada and that rollover deal? I said yes. What about Canada? Because Canada, once again, if you look at the numbers Our top 10, our top 10 countries that we trade with are all European, bar two, and that's China and the US. Now, where does Canada fall on this list? Because they're not in the top 10. They're not even in the top 15. I believe they fall about 18th, 17th, I believe, on the league table of countries who we trade with. And, you know, a Canada deal and this rollover deal that we have, because let's reframe this. This is not a trade deal. I want to get through that because a lot of Brexiteers have been claiming that it is. It is not a trade deal. This is just a rollover deal that Canada has said that for the time being, while trade talks take place for the next year, yes, you heard me right, for the next year, Canada will essentially continue trading with you under CETA terms. That means that we must meet European standards to trade with them. So, this is, you know, and bear in mind, Canada's in control of this. So, let's say, you know, we start mucking about. Canada can basically just say, well, okay, we're not going to extend the rollover deal this year. We'll just go to WTO terms until we get this trade deal sorted out. And for those of you who've been keeping a close eye on the Japan deal, will know just how bad that Japan deal has actually turned out to be. Not even that, this actually alters our law. So I have to ask the question, where are all these Brexiteers who spent years crying about the dictatorial terms that the EU had taken with us, about enforcing upon us laws that we, quote, did not want, yet seemingly in the House of Commons we overwhelmingly voted for? Where are they on the fact that we have lost our privacy terms to the Japanese? Why aren't they crying about this? And once again, it comes back to that old thing of when Europe does it, it's bad. When another country does it, or we do it, it's somehow fine. And it's an incredible double standard that just takes place slap bang right in front of the Brexiteers. You just, you know, you've got to just look sometimes some of these in the face and just realise, what on earth are you doing? What was the point of all this? And that's the question that will be asked next year. We enter next year with the worst recession in over 300 years that this country has ever seen. Not only that, we enter in a term of, you know, the coronavirus is still going to be with us for at least next year. For how long, we don't know, but, you know, hopefully we can get the vaccine deployed properly and, you know, this will sort it out. And yes, you are right, Daniel, the state aid rules. The state aid rules that the EU want us to sign up to. We've signed up to stricter state aid rules with Japan than what the EU are currently proposing. So once again, this just makes us look complete and utter idiots. Because they were essentially after this. The Liz Truss and the Department of Trade and the government itself started touting how fantastic this was going to be, and that this was just the beginning of us joining the TTP, or the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So we left our closest trade bloc, which historically, given the terms of what was called economic gravity, every single country always trades most with their most closest trade ally. Now, maybe some of you say, well, what about, China and the US? There's a sea and, half the world separating us from them. Here's the thing. At the moment, those two countries are economic superpowers. They can do that. But the Brexiteers suffer from this delusion that we can somehow be as well. And we can't, because they're dreaming of this fantasy, of this so-called free trade. And you've heard Jacob Rees-Mogg mention this about, oh, it'll be fine, we'll just go to zero tariffs on everything. And yeah, it'll be fine. Because this is what happened during the reign of Queen Victoria. The empire essentially implemented completely zero tariff free trade. It put down its barriers to zero, and this did have a significant effect. But at the time, we were the most, powerfulest nation on the planet. Not only that, but our colonies, of which we essentially sucked all the wealth, all the raw materials from, all were sent here to the UK. And the UK businesses got first dibs on all these resources. The colonies were strictly under heavy tariff barriers if they wanted to trade with another country. And then the British manufacturers essentially were able to deploy their materials that they'd used from colonies to sell back the finished goods into these colonies, essentially giving British manufacturers free rein in these colonies to make a ton of money. This is the world that Jacob Rees-Mogg somehow thinks he can recreate when they talk about, the terms of Empire 2.0 and joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Joining the Trans-Pacific Partnership will not benefit us at all. And I'm going to love the fact how the Brexiteers are going to react when the Trans-Pacific Partnership brings in its own courts, because that's what they're planning to do. So it's going to be fun to see them justifying accepting rules that are essentially made halfway around the world and, having to live with it. But for some reason, not really liking the time when the Europeans did it to us. And it's just going to be absolutely insane. Anyway, here we are. So, Tom Jones, good morning from sunny Shropshire. Good morning to you. As you can see, wonderful, dim and gritty Yorkshire weather. I'll just give you the view of the scenery. As always, fantastic. Oh yes, and Arkin. Good morning from Northern Ireland. Good morning. Welcome to you. And who else is joining us there? Patrick, good morning to you from Warwickshire. Welcome, 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 one and all. Holy moly. We've got 126 people joining us today. This is my middle part of the walk now, so please do remember to hit that like button. It does help get more people in to the stream. Also remember to share the stream as well if you would like to do so as well. It does help support the channel. And of course, if you would like to support the channel in a different way, there is a link to my Patreon down below where you can become my patron. And of course, there is the one-off donation link, Buy Me a Coffee, where you can literally buy me a coffee. So yes, thank you very much to the people that do support me on these platforms and that way. Your support is very, very much appreciated. And thank you, even if all you do is click that like button on my videos or you share them as well. Thank you again so much for your support as well. It means quite a lot. So whether you support me with a bit of change or whether you just, you know, flex that finger, thank you so much for supporting the channel. It does mean quite a lot to me. And of course, we get to have these wonderful walks with you all, of course, on a good Saturday morning. It is, as always, a pleasure to be with you. But of course, one of the other things that's happened this week is, of course, well, last week, but we didn't talk about it this week. Priti Patel. Pretty horrible person by all sounds of it. You know, I can't believe what came out in the in that report. It was unbelievable. You know, Priti Patel had engaged aggressively so hard with someone that it caused them to faint. I mean, imagine for a second if a manager had done that to one of your colleagues, engaged so aggressively, it caused them to caused your colleague to faint. It is unbelievable. It is really, really unbelievable. And you've got to also question, why is Priti Patel allowed so close to the reins of government? Because some of you may or may not be aware, the very first time Priti Patel actually came to somewhat significant prominence was because she, an MP at the time, not a minister, she was not in the cabinet office, she had no responsibilities, she was just an MP, a junior MP at the time indeed, had decided to take it upon herself to essentially engage with foreign governments about British foreign policy without the express permission of the Prime Minister or even the Foreign Office. How on earth is Priti Patel, first of all, still allowed to be an MP? And second of all, how on earth is she still not only allowed to be an MP, but actually even be in a serious position of power? Because she has openly engaged with foreign governments behind the British government's back. You know? It boggles the mind. It really does. And if you were, even for a second, thinking that you were going to build a cabinet of Tory MPs, you know, if I was the Prime Minister, I had to choose who I was going to be in my cabinet, the last person on my list would be Priti Patel. It just boggles the mind. It really, really does. But yeah, but of course we know why. You did your morning walk at 6 a.m. Well, you got up earlier than I did. I often say this starts at 8 o'clock, but even I have struggled since shall we say the winter set in to get up in time for it. Yeah, it's been an interesting one. But yeah, and of course the other thing that came out this week is that part of the reason she was not fired was because Boris decided to keep her, apparently because, and we quote, this was from an inside source, that she was loyal to the cause and Boris didn't want to lose her. So essentially, Priti Patel got a free pass for essentially really significant and substantiated bullying accusations going back at least 3 years within 3 different departments. And yet, somehow, she gets a free pass because she's a Brexit believer. Says it all. Says it all on the tin, my friends. Says it all. And of course, we now get the segue back into Brexit, because some of you are very desperately aware, of course, with the announcement of Michel Barnier essentially going, okay, Britain, if you are serious about a deal, then you have to compromise. We're not going to compromise. It is up to you. And this has left Britain in a serious problem. A very serious problem. And we'll just go over that question. So this is from Bashiro. The government is corrupt to the core. The Tories are so incompetent, they're going to destroy themselves from the inside. Yes, indeed they are. Because this leaves Boris Johnson in a very serious predicament. There are now a number of groups in the Conservative Party, all modelled on the success of the ERG, that are probably the most group responsible for steering us to this position where we are. Oh, thank you very much, Nicola. Thank you very much for the unicorn. Oh. Oh, sorry, Nico D. Smith. Thank you very much for your support, and thank you very much for the unicorn. Of course, I have next year, as the Brexiteers have numerous times promised me, unicorns. And what is this in the background? Is this? Behold, my unicorns. Of course, they're not unicorns; they're just ponies. But I know how much some of you adore the ponies. You really come here for the politics and ponies. Let's not lie. Let's not lie to each other about this. Oh, so yeah, it's going to be a crazy time, because Boris has essentially got a coin flip, and the come down he has to do if he's going to compromise is going to be eye-watering. It's going to be unbelievable. Anyway, Bashir again with another question. I want to see what Keir Starmer will demand in return for support of the voters on Tuesday. For the votes on Tuesday. That'll be interesting, but we'll have to see. But also, the other interesting thing was the government passed a fisheries bill. the first fisheries bill in 40 years. And as I always say, I think I am, I can't confirm it, but I think I am one of the very few Brexit YouTubers that has covered this fishing debacle more closely than anyone else, because this new fisheries bill essentially from next year bans all non-EU boats, also all non-British boats from British waters. And people say that there's going to be a deal. I've been very confident. I will admit, on these walks, I've been very confident that there is going to be a deal, even a very, very skinny deal. However, unless Boris essentially decides to do his epic climb down from Mount Brexit, there's going to be no deal. I really mean that seriously. Unless there is a significant movement from Boris, who we know is actually the most stubborn person on this. He is the one that is refusing to move. Then he is pretty damn certain we're going to go for, there's not going to be a deal. And that is going to cause huge harm to this country. And it's, you know, you think things are bad now. You think that lorry queue was bad. That was just at one port. That is going to be at every port surrounding the country. And I know some of you like the ponies, so we'll do this. So that is going to be at every port surrounding the country. That's not just going to be at our main port. Because if you do significant, you know, heavy industry up in the north, then you've got really two key ports that you go to and you ship your goods to and from. Flash moon. Can ponies travel freely from the UK to Northern Ireland? Well, certain areas they will be able to, because, you know, if depending on what happens with this border, and we, you know, I've lost track really of what's going to happen to this border, whether it's going to be in the Irish Sea, whether you know, Boris is going to give up and erect a hard border. We really don't know what's going to happen. We really don't. Oh, Retrofit, good morning and hello from Australia. I've been looking forward to your stream. Well, good morning to you. And I know really the reason why you're here. Because of this guy in the background. Don't lie. So, if you're... Austria, not Australian. Sorry. So, yeah. I was going to say good day to you. But no. It's, if you're a significant manufacturer in the UK and you're based in the north, then, and you want to ship your goods from here to Europe, your essentially two main ports, your closest ports are Hull and the Newcastle port. And both of these have not prepared for Brexit. They've been among two of the strongest voices in shouting out, saying, hey, what are we going to do about Brexit? We need all this extra infrastructure. What on earth are we going to do? I haven't heard about the new S&P stuff. But I'm sure we'll probably end up covering it this week. Like I say, please do send it to my Facebook page. If there's any interesting articles, then I will cover them. And it's absolutely insane, because if any of you have ever been to Hull, then you'll know this. To actually get to the port in Hull, you actually physically have to go through the city centre. Now imagine for a second what happened this week with the delay on the customs checks. And that was the French testing their system. Well, to say to you, I say this: at least the French have a system. And someone else said that P&O will close their Hull route. Oh, that's just going to be insane. Scotland's going to have a referendum next year. Well, good luck to them. That's all I can say. Good luck to them. We've got a ridiculous situation here, because Hull, not only you've got to imagine the rush hour traffic just in the city centre, the number of people that work in the city centre, but also those lorry queues added to that mix. It's going to be insane. And like I say, Boris has got a coin toss to flip. He either makes his grand climb down and essentially betrays all the Brexit ultras and all the backbench Tories who essentially drank the Kool-Aid on Brexit. And that in itself is going to be fantastic, because the papers trying to spin what will essentially be a monumental climb down, and it's going to be eye-watering. I don't know how papers like the Telegraph, the Express are going to even cover it, but I guarantee you we will, because it's just going to be fun to read. It's going to be just fun to read. It's going to be insane. Really will. But anyway, we'll just go over some of your comments. Patrick. Patrick H. How difficult will it be to escape the EU next year? I think a lot of talented and qualified Brits will not stay after no deal. Yep, you're right. Beagle. Got a beagle. Oh, sorry. That's all right. Oh, beagle. I love beagles. Sorry I didn't show him yet. But yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of Brits who will escape, because they will have jobs, because there are going to be a lot of people's jobs who go next year. A lot of jobs in the city will go to Europe next year. It'll be that simple, and a lot of Brits will just go, well, I'm going to move with my job. Of course, with the now very definitive proof that you can now actually work from home and do your job at the same time, thanks to the coronavirus. One of the benefits of this whole thing, by the way, let's not understate that, because lots of people for years have been saying, I can do my job from home, I don't need to come into the office every day. Well, guess what? We've now proved that to be the case. So you may get a lot of Brits that work from home in the UK and have jobs in Europe. That could be a very significant case. I actually had an interview a couple of months ago back now. I don't know if you're aware of them. They're a company called The Meatless Farm. So the Meatless Farm were essentially looking for a guy to be their head of marketing in the UK, and I applied for it and I got an interview for it. And it was a really bizarre interview because there I was sitting in the UK with the HR person who was sitting in Amsterdam and another guy who was from Denmark in Denmark. And it just goes to show you that, unfortunately I didn't get the job, but it just goes to show you you don't need to actually move to Europe potentially if you can do your job from home. So I do expect a lot of that next year, and I think a lot of especially European firms are a lot more progressive when it does come to allowing things. So when you're dealing with like the European officers, they will be very open to Brits working from home rather than having to make the big move. You know, that will be the case. In fact, here's another interesting thing. I don't know if people saw it. I suppose you're all fans of The Crown. Well, is it season 4 or 5 that starts filming? We're looking for someone to play a very young Prince William. And interestingly enough, in this job description for the role, they expressly asked and said no actors should apply if they have a British passport. You can only apply for the role if you have a European passport. Interesting, that. Very interesting. So there you also got a very clear distinction of that there are going to be European businesses also not willing to hire Brits. So there may come to a situation of that some companies are willing to hire Brits if they'll work from home. And of course, you've then got the interesting situation of some European companies are just going to say, we're not hiring Brits. It'll be as simple as that. Second beagle. A second beagle. Where is he? There he is. Look at him. Ah. I do love a beagle. Such nice dogs. Such nice dogs. But yeah, that will be the case. And I think it'll be a 50-50 split, and it will entirely depend on the company. And a lot of Brits are going to lose out, unfortunately, because of that. Some Brits will gain because of it. Because I don't think after next year the pound is going to be in a very secure state. As I've told everyone else, you need to learn the word disaster capitalism and look at what that means, because you know what did Littlefinger say? Chaos is a ladder, and there are going to be lots of people profiting off the chaos that Brexit is going to bring. And I'll tell you now, it's not going to be, you know, the little people, shall we say, the working class, the middle class of the UK is going to benefit. It is going to be pretty much the millionaires and billionaires, most of which who backed Brexit, by the way. Let's dispel that little myth now that most people who are rich backed the Remain camp. Needless to say that one of the biggest expenditures in, political donations in history was to the Leave campaign by Aaron Banks. Of course, still in question where he got that money from in the first place. But that's definitely another story for another time. And yeah, this is the bizarre situation that we are in. It's, and this is where we often get to this point. Every time we come to this, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for the north where I am. I've said this before and I'll say it again. The north is still suffering from the effects of the miners' strike. It is still suffering from the effects of the 2008 crash. And now, on top of a no-deal Brexit that we will have to suffer from, we will also still have to suffer from the effects of the coronavirus as well. How on earth is the north meant to survive? I tell you, it's not going to be good for anyone in the north at all. But that's the situation that we're in. And none of it's good. It's just going to be absolutely a free-for-all. It's, what can you do? Literally, it's just what do we, I'm lost for words because I generally don't know what to say to you after all this, and neither do the Brexiteers. The Brexiteers don't have a clue about what they're going to do either next year. They've got plans, but yeah. But the North voted for Brexit. Well, as I always say, you've got to separate. Hang on, I'm going to go under the bridge because it's raining. As I always say, you've got to separate. I thought someone was coming then. You've got to separate what I call the Brexiteers from the Brexiteer supporters. Because a Brexiteer is someone like Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, and then you've got the lesser like Brexiteers like Katie Ho and so on, and the Brexiteer MPs who were the members of the Tory party who predominantly got in because of let's get Brexit done, even though not being able to explain what that is. The next point is those are the Brexiteers. So who are the Brexit supporters? The Brexit supporters are just the people who voted for Brexit. And there are a myriad reasons why people voted for Brexit. And yes, the North did vote for Brexit in quite significant fashion. But they were lied to, conned out of their futures. And none of those lies and the promises that the Brexiteers made will come true. So one of the things we have to be ready for next year is to grab those Brexit supporters and tell them it's not your fault. You still support Brexit, or you voted for it in the past and maybe you have regrets, but it is not your fault. We must not, as tempting as it might be, and yes, on this channel we will laugh at some of the outrageous stuff that happens on Brexit. But I do not laugh at Brexit supporters. I laugh at the Brexiteers who made these predictions, who predicted the unicorns and the fantasies that they live in. Those are the ones who we've got to direct their anger at, not at the Brexit supporters. As much as you may want to tell a Brexit supporter, I told you so. we've seen the rumours that came out from a German auto manufacturer magazine this week that the Nissan factory was going to close. Now, Nissan denied the rumours, but if you look at it from a pure economic standpoint, there's no need to remain in the UK. It's an actual economic harm for them to remain there. And sooner or later, Nissan will do two things. They will either significantly wind back production at the Sunderland plant, or they will close. Those are the two options. And unfortunately, people are going to lose their jobs. People who did vote, as you are right and point out, for Brexit. But they did not vote to lose their jobs. They voted because they were told that things were going to be better for them, that somehow their life was going to be made better for them. And at the end of the day, it is not them who put us in this mess in the first place. It is the Brexiteers who did this. It is the Brexiteers that have, driven them. They were the drivers of this car. They were the ones responsible for this crash. The Brexit supporters were just in the back seat along for the ride. And that's the situation where they're in. And it's not good for them. And like I say, we have to really resist the urge to take revenge on Brexit supporters, because they're not the ones we should be taking revenge on. It's the Brexiteers, not the Brexit supporters, that we need to attacking next year. And that is what I will definitely urge you all today, to not go after the Brexit supporters, but it is the Brexiteers. And it is hard sometimes, when you've got these rabid Brexiteers making claims left, right and centre that are wrong. And by all means, do show how wrong they are, but don't rub the faces in it, Next year, this could be a guy who voted for Brexit, who's hoping somehow his life will be made better. Don't rub his face in it, because he was the lied to. He was the conned. You've got to go after the con artist. That's who we've got to go after. So, we are at the end of our good morning walk today, and 182 people. Wow. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please do remember to hit that like button on the way out. It will be absolutely very, very much appreciated today. Please also, if you would like to support the channel, there are, of course, links to my Patreon down below, as well as a one-off donation link, should you like to buy me a coffee. And, of course, we can't end the stream without a bit of pony. Thank you so much once again for you all joining me on today's job. On today's walk. Yeah, the pony's clapping. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. Like I say, please do remember to hit the like button on your way out. And again, if you would like to support the channel, there is my links down below to my Patreon and a one-off donation link. Again, should you like to support the channel and to essentially help improve these morning walks, I'm going to definitely buy a steady cam of some sort. I'm probably going to end up buying some gloves as well, because my hands holding this phone are freezing today. So thank you as always for joining us. Enjoy your weekend. Oh, thank you very much, Tom. That's very much appreciated. I will definitely go grab myself a hot coffee after this. Thank you so much for your support. We will have videos coming out next week, of course, continuing to cover the mess that is not only Brexit, but just in general British politics, of course, at the moment, and the absolute incompetence that is the Tory party that is governing us, and the mess that they've got us into soon, because I'm sure Boris is about to very well easily get us into another fine mess. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for keeping me company, as always. Enjoy your weekend. Have an absolutely fantastic one. As always, if you can't be safe, be sensible. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, we'll see you next Saturday for another Good Morning Walk.